a third beautiful way that we can serve. This is the example of Christ. You can put on a towel. You can put on a towel. John chapter 13. This is the closing hours of Jesus' life. This is the night that he institutes the Lord's Supper. He's with his disciples in the upper room. He knows that it's getting down to the end. And he's sharing with them. And he also knows that they still don't quite get the true meaning of goat, the greatest of all time. Still kind of wrestling with that. And so at one point in the meal, it says Jesus got up, here in John chapter 13, verses 4 and 5. Jesus got up from the table, and he took off his outer clothing, and he wrapped a towel around his waist. And after that, he poured water into a basin, and he began to wash his disciples' feet. And one of the things that becomes really clear as you go on through the story that they didn't really quite get it is he comes to Peter, and Peter says, "Oh Lord, you will never wash my feet." Because it's the role of a servant. If we would, to make it a little more strong, it's the role of a slave. And Peter says, "No way! You're the Lord. You're not going to wash my feet." And it even indicates in there, Jesus is like, "You don't understand this yet, but you will." And he says, "Peter, if I don't wash your feet, you have no part in me." And then Peter, of course, being Peter, says, "Well, then wash me from head to toe, man." Hands, head, the whole deal. Jesus says, no. I mean, Peter, you've had a bath. You're good. Your feet are dusty, and you walk everywhere you go. And so that's why we wash feet, and that's why it needs to happen. And he teaches them what servanthood is about. The Son of God, the light of the world, the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, looks around and sees hearts that don't quite get it. And so he puts on a towel. And he sets an example for them that they will never forget of lordship and humility and what greatness really looks like in the kingdom. That greatness is about service. He even teaches them, no servant is above their master. And if you want to be like me, then put on the towel, right? And love. And later that evening, John chapter 13, verses 34 and 35, we read these maybe familiar words, powerful words. He says, "A new command I give you." And the word new there really means a fresh, kind of a fresh spin on an old command. This isn't the first time that they've been told part of this, but he puts a new tweak to it. "A new command I give you, love one another." I've heard that before, but then he adds, as I have loved you. You need to love each other the way I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know you're my disciples. Not because people say, "Oh, you're the goat." Not because of your status. Not because of your prominence, like, James and John. Not because you sit on the right or sit on the left, if you know that story. Not because you achieve all these great things, but because you're willing to put on the towel and there's nothing too small for you to bend down and do. Because you serve each other. Because you put your status aside and you love one another with a servant heart as I've loved you. That's what it's about, guys. Wow. So, how do we become great in the kingdom? Well, it starts with praying the prayer, "Lord, empty me of me. Fill me of you," or with you. If you've never made that first decision to say, "Lord," see, we need him to be our Savior. We need to step over the line of saying, "Empty me of my sin." I turn away from living for me in this world and by the world's culture and all that. I'm done with living for that. I'm turning to Jesus. I want him to be my Savior. I'm putting my faith in him. I want to be buried in baptism. Rise up. I want to be a disciple of Jesus, right? If you've never done that, that's the first step. That's when the Spirit of the Savior, the one who is the great servant, lives inside of us and begins to shape us and make us into his image. It's beautiful. If you've never made Jesus your Savior, man, come and do that today.